Okay, good morning and welcome. We have a busy day today, but as part of this opening, I will just make a very brief introduction of UBB, Babeș-Bolyai University. Then Eva, as president of Utopia, will make a brief introduction into the Alliance. And then Nikki will give us a summary of the new bid, which hopefully will be implemented starting with the fall or winter. Nikki will tell us what is the plan. And then we just follow the program, as you must have received so far. As concerning Babeș-Bolyai University, I would start saying that the name is pretty complicated. Babeș is the name of a Romanian biologist, a famous microbiologist, and Bolyai is the name of a Hungarian mathematician. But as I said, I know that for foreigners it's pretty difficult to pronounce Babeș-Bolyai, so we prefer to be called UBB, simple. Having said that, at this moment, UBB is the largest university in Romania. We are a community of about 55,000 people, students, academic staff, non-academic staff. We are distributed all over the country in about 11 counties, but of course the headquarters, the core, is here in Cluj-Napoca. In a way, and you will see maybe during your visit in Cluj, UBB is like a city in the city. I mean, we have more than 100 buildings all over the city. And this is the old style of organizing a university from a traditional perspective. However, we have a plan, in a way, to keep this structure, but also we want to move the university outside of the city to have a new campus, so that hopefully in about 10 or 15 years, the city will follow us there. So we will also contribute to the development of the city. The second idea, UBB is the oldest university in the country. We have the very long academic tradition. It started in 1581 as a Jesuit academy, Academia Claudiopolitana, right at the end of the street. Maybe you will just have time to visit that. At that time, the academy had two faculties, theology and philosophy, and of course the teaching was in Latin. Then, in the 18th century, the end of the 17th and during the 18th century, the academy became a university, Universitas Claudiopolitana. In the second part of the 18th century, it was not a Jesuit university anymore, but it became an imperial university, having four faculties: theology, philosophy, medicine, and law. Then in the 19th century, the university became a Hungarian university. In the 20th century, at the beginning of the 20th century, it became a Romanian university. That is why today, Babeș-Bolyai University, or UBB, is a multicultural university trying to reflect this history, this complicated history of the University of Transylvania. So we have practically 3 official lines of studies, not only programs in different languages, but 3 official languages: Romanian, Hungarian, and German. And of course, we have many other programs in English, French, some programs in Italian, one program in Portuguese, in Spanish, and so on. So this is the tradition of the university, but at the same time, our values are both tradition and excellence. So we try to use this tradition to make us be dynamic in the present. That is why we are very happy to be part of Utopia, which also includes modern, new, dynamic universities which could inspire us to use tradition in order to be more dynamic and active in the present. And that's concerning the excellence. UBB is one of the best Romanian universities. Truly speaking, in the last 7 years, is the first university of Romania if we consider the international rankings. And also we have some very good academic performance in some specific fields, where, for example, we have highly cited researchers or researchers who are in the top 2% most cited in different fields, like psychology, but here mainly cognitive sciences, physics, like nanoscience, nanotechnology, chemistry, especially biochemistry in relationship to biotechnologies, mathematics. So these are very strong points of us. And I would add that also UBB has a very complex academic profile, because we have from art and humanities, including theater, music, theology, film, to social sciences, life sciences, natural sciences, engineering and technology. So a very complex academic profile. And we see it as a very strong point, because we try, for example, to approach the whole paradigm of the European Union of doing innovation, not only in the logic of applied research, like many other universities are trying to do, but we try to work in the STEM paradigm, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we have a strong advantage here, having this diversity. And as we all know, if you approach the innovation from a STEM perspective, typically you will not do only incremental innovation, but you will be able to do disruptive innovation sometimes. So, to make a long story short, this is a glimpse of UBB. And as I said, we try to combine our tradition with the dynamism of the present. We are happy to be part of Utopia, and hopefully together we will find win-win projects. Thank you for being here, and now I will pass the floor to Eva. Eva, please.
Thank you very much. I think I will have a little gadget to be using in order to show my slides. So if you just start the first one. Yes. So move on with this. Yeah, yeah. So, dear all, dear Daniel, Balint, Anka, everybody here in UBB, we are so happy to be here. And thank you so much for inviting us. And now we are really looking forward to knowing more about UBB. And I think also that in these challenging days for Europe, it's even more important that we stay together and that we strive for an open-minded and inclusive academia. But I would like to start with one very, very positive thing, which just arrived yesterday to us. So, Daniel, I would like to congratulate UBB on the wonderful news of the 35 million euro long-term loan that you now will be receiving from the European Investment Bank. This is a huge amount. This means so much to UBB, but it also means very much to Utopia. So when you are successful, we all are successful. So congratulations. I think we should give an applause. So, and
because you mentioned that cover only 50% of the investigation, the other part is will be offered by UBB. So the whole project is almost 70, yes, right, 70 million euros.
Wow. Yes, and we all know that there is this co-funding part, and I think that we will follow with interest what happens in the future. So, and thank you for your warm welcoming words. And I will now give you a short overview of where Utopia came from, where we stand today, before our Secretary General, Nikki Makul, will speak about the new bid, which we just handed in earlier this week, so submitted on Monday evening. But I would like to say another word on the fact that we actually are in this very sad situation with the attack of Ukraine. We will later today also meet with people who are working with the refugees, students and so on. And I know that UBB is doing a great thing and is has a very good commitment to this. And as you said, the multicultural part, if we look at the history of UBB, shows very clearly that you've gone through many phases, and we will hopefully get out of this very horrible situation also now. But we stand together and we believe really in a peaceful way of working. And I think that this European University Initiative actually has become even more relevant now. We need to build a common future. We do need to support one another in good times and in times of hardship. And that is why we're now building this European University together. Together we can do more. Where do I point this? Okay, so you do that. Thank you. I think it will be better if, yes, and I just say next slide then. So here you see this slide. You can see that we are currently one of the 41 European University Alliances that the European Commission has granted financing. So in 2019, Utopia was one of these first very exclusive alliances, one could say. And we had 6 founding members, and you see them here. And at that point, I must say that we all, and my colleagues are here behind me, we all said that whether we get the money or not, we will still be going on with our alliance. That goes for now too. And we said it would take a little longer time. I think this is an important issue to bring in mind. We can always do things. If we have money, money is a facilitator. It's not what's going to do the work. The work are done by all of us, and especially by our staff and our students. So what brought us together, what was that then? It was that we had institutions that were broadly similar, so for instance comprehensive, but of different type and in different phases sometimes. And this made us think that we could learn from each other. Another part was the regional balance. So I think that we now have an even better regional balance than we had with our 6. And one very fundamental thing is the similar ethos, that we are innovative, that we are forward-looking, that we are international and global. We're not Eurocentric. We're looking out for the whole world. And also the locations, so the local contexts. I think that is very important. As you said, we are not isolated. We are in a context, in our regions, in our countries. And also that there were strong links already between the partners and also beyond the alliance, both in Europe and in the world. Next slide, please. So, as you see, now we have 4 new partners in the alliance, and we're really happy that we now also have Nova of Lisboa, we have Ca' Foscari of Venice, we have TU Dresden, and we have, what am I missing?
UBB.
UBB. I did this on purpose, sorry. I had to do it.
It was
I
difficult to say Babeș boy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So as you see, but we have still the same characteristics as before, and the enlargement actually enriches us in terms of giving more strength with Nova on the Atlantic coast, with Kafoscari, with all its historical past and now, and with TU Dresden, one of the strongest universities in Germany. We're very happy. Yes, and you. It's incredible. We have more disciplines, we have more languages. Also, you know, I'm a language professor, so I'm really keen on what you said about that you have 3 languages. That's really nice. Next slide, please. So, facts and figures are always interesting. You can see here we have a glimpse of what that actually means in numbers. 250,000 of students. My God, that's quite a lot. And almost 900 research groups. You see how many staff we have. And I think that this gives us an enormous critical mass. And of course we know that the Alliance will not merge all this together, at least not now, and maybe never. But it is what we can do with this. This is the base. And I think that this gives, as we say in Swedish, circles on the water. What do you say in Romanian when it spreads? You have a word for that? Think about it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, yes, I think this is impressive. And whenever someone asks you, Utopia, what's that? You have these facts, you can see. Next slide, please. So what do we have? What are our strategic objectives for the Alliance? What are they still? As you know, we have this 2050 project between 2019 and 2022. And now we will build further on what we have. So we're not throwing out these things. And Nikki will tell us more about how we use these parts. The first one is governance. Of course, a governance, you could think, is that only top-down? No, of course not. It's also bottom-up. If you don't have people with you, you won't be able to do what we need. But still, we have to test a governance structure. And we will be discussing this day and tomorrow and also in the coming months. Because we need to have a long-term governance structure of the Alliance that actually can ensure that we have a forward strategy and that we can be responsive to new developments and also new challenges when they come. And the second one is education. Even though I say this is the second one, you shouldn't think them as hierarchical. Yes, maybe the governance, you have to have that. But anyway, education is at the bottom. It's very important that we can develop, and we are doing that, a common learning community. So here we are promoting and initiating changes and exchanges in educational programs of the Utopia universities, and through learning community of Utopia is the starting point. We test now for projects and educational formats, which doesn't always have to be double degrees or anything like that, but might be micro-credentials and other things. And this is done in the pilot phase. And I would very much like to say that we will also sign now. I know we have an Erasmus agreement between the 6, but we will enlarge this to the other 4 new members. So we will be complete, and I'm happy about that too. Then we have research, of course. And we are higher education institutes. We're not research institutes, and we're not only education institutes. So if we don't have the research, we cannot fulfill the challenge-based knowledge creation of communities that integrate the research activities of Utopia partners. And it's very important that we also think cross-disciplinary, that we are challenge-based, that we also are driven by an open science agenda, so that we can enhance quality and performance in our research and innovation. And as we were speaking about Ukraine, but it's more than that, societal challenges. We're not through the COVID situation yet, but anyway, this has been a huge challenge for all of us. How are we going to take care of what we've learned there? How can we increase the attractiveness of our institutions so that talented students and researchers would want to be within Utopia? And, as I said in the beginning, the regional part, that we actually develop a place-making capacity of the Alliance, and that the co-creation of knowledge, the environments, the innovation part, the tools, the methodologies to be able to make exchanges and have dialogue across sectors, institutions, and not only the global challenges, but also the local challenges as such. And then comes a point which I think is, I personally really want to stress very much, and it is inclusion. We are strong, we are a very huge alliance, but if you're strong, you also have to be kind. So achieving inclusion in a balanced society, trying to be a more balanced society, we can develop a strategy to identify what is it that excludes students or potential students from being part of a higher education system. What are the challenges and the obstacles, and how we can also foster inclusion. We know that the Commission and Europe speaks about openness and inclusion, and we know in these days, as I said, it's even more important. And in our alliance, we have been targeting the Western Balkans, so that is also an important thing. The global part, we think that we have to be open. We're not Eurocentric, as I said, so this is very important, how we can be part of an international community. And of course, how can we do this? We have to stand strong for a long time, so we need to be sustainable, also sustainable when it comes to the Sustainable Development Goals, of course. This is a very important thing in our strategic plan. So, and next slide, please. So here you see these cogwheels that go into each other. This shows actually how our portfolio has grown over the years, how we've been working, operating, and how we'll grow for the future. So right now we are running 5 projects that are funded by Erasmus+, by Horizon and other sources, not at least our co-funding, of course. And the partners contribute to the projects that suit their needs, because sometimes it is that we cannot always be part of a project all 10, and before that also all 6. That has to grow gradually, of course. It will be even more important to recognize that everybody doesn't have to be part of everything, but we have to focus on what benefits for our alliance, actually. And next slide, please. So now, we are looking forward to continue this journey together for many years to come. And in the next phase of our collaboration, we will be speaking more about connecting communities, and this is the implementation. And I think that I won't go through this because I know I've been speaking too long, probably, but I think that I would like to end saying another warm thank you and appreciation for your institution, UBB. Babs Boyoy, probably pronounced a little bit?
Almost there.
Almost there. I'm practicing during these days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. Nikki, you have the floor. You could sit down,
Thank
stand
you.
up as you
I
as
can
you
see
wish.
people
Okay.
if I stand up. Morning, everybody. My name is Nikki Muckle. I am the Secretary General of Utopia. Apparently that's why I get to sit over here as opposed to over there. I don't know what that means. My job today is to talk to you a little bit about what happens next. Eva's given you an overview of where we are now and how we got to this point. And I want to talk to you about what we're going to do next and the bid that we submitted on Monday and what happens over the next few months and how you can be involved in that and what your role in that could be. So I'm going to start with the bid. Next slide, please. No? Okay. So the bid was submitted on Monday. A lot of us haven't had an awful lot of sleep, and the first thing I want to say is a huge thank you to everybody that worked on that bid. You know who you are. I'm not going to read out names, but everybody within our partner who did the work within their institutions, and then everybody in the writing group and the project management team who came together at the end. And I'm deliberately looking at you and not them, because I know who did the work, but thank you to everybody that put the bid together. We are really grateful for the work you did. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. You probably can't see the detail on these screens, but I will go through it, and of course we will give you the presentation so you will have this to look at. We started from our vision and our mission, and I'll read out the vision just so that you can hear what it is, which is to empower future generations with academic knowledge to contribute to a more sustainable society, connecting our communities on a local, European and global level. And there's two things in there that I'll come back to again, which is one, how we connect our communities with each other, and two, how we do this externally and how we connect outside our institutions. And those are the two themes of both our vision and our mission, but also in how we put together the bid. We also based it on 4 core principles of Utopia, which are the 4 core principles that were in place in the last bid, and we've carried those forward. Geared towards the challenges of the future, so how we respond to societal and global challenges. It could be SDGs, it doesn't have to be SDGs, but any global challenges. We're not, as Utopia, we don't set those challenges. Some of the alliances are thematic and have a thematic challenge. We've decided not to do that. We want the challenges to come bottom up from our communities, so we're not setting the thematic areas. That's for you in our communities to do, but we do want to be driven by those societal challenges. Student-centred and student empowering. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we've got any students here today, which is unfortunate, but we very much want to put our students... Have we? Thank you. Can't see beyond the... Good, I'm really pleased about that. We do want to put our students at the centre of what we do. We've worked very hard to put the students at the centre of what we do up to now, and we want to continue to do that. Focused on, as Eva's mentioned already, our regions, the places in which our universities are sited, how we connect with those places, whether that's through companies and industry and SMEs, or whether that's through local authorities, or whether that's through cultural organisations or policy organisations, but how we connect not only with the institutions within our localities, but how we then can help connect our localities to each other. So how our localities can benefit from being part of Utopia by connecting to other regions within Europe. And then supportive of a process of self-transformation and guided by our shared values. So we are looking to say, what can Utopia add to what our organisations do already? We're not trying to replace what our partners do. We're not trying to substitute for what goes on in our institutions, but we're trying to add value to what goes on in our institutions. And how can we come together and learn from each other and learn from expertise that we might not have in our own organisations to try and help our institutions do more than they do already by being part of Utopia. And we have a set of shared values which, towards the bottom of that diagram, academic freedom, is kind of obvious, but we felt particularly at the moment we needed to restate it. Inclusion, as Eva has talked about earlier. Excellence in all that we do. That doesn't mean that we want to be exclusive, but we do want to strive for excellence. Sustainability, because that has to be important to us, and that's, I'll talk about it a bit more in the bid. Openness, which is open both to everybody and open within Europe. And cooperation, which is quite an obvious one. So that is our set of value statements. And we are doing this within the context of the new strategy for universities. So there is it was published in January. The Commission has published a new European strategy for universities. It was a consultation throughout the last 12 months or so, and Utopia has been very much involved in that consultation, so we've input to that consultation. And therefore, we've been able to actually have a voice because of Utopia into what that strategy is and what that strategy has become. So it's not something that has been done to us, it's something that we are part of developing, and we have been talking to the Commission about what is in that strategy. So the key points coming out of that European strategy, strengthening the European dimension in research and education, so really focusing the core of the strategy on, as you would expect, on research and education, but on how collaboration can really add value to the research and education that we do in our institutions. Universities as lighthouses of the European way of life, which is really about saying that European universities can have a voice on being European and what it means to be European. And again, that has a lot more resonance suddenly now than it did when this strategy was published in July. But what does it mean to be European? And what can universities and what can European universities have a voice on what it means to be European? Universities in the green and digital transitions, they are core pillars of all the European Commission strategies at the moment, so that applies to this one as well. The green transition has been in place with the Commission for some time, but also coming out of COVID, we now have the digital transition as well. So those two core priorities for the Commission are also very much written into this European strategy. And then one that is perhaps not what we were expecting to be in the strategy, but we're very pleased it is European universities as leaders in an increasingly global world. So what role can European universities play in leadership, both in higher education, but also in all the other areas in which they work? So how can European universities really be leaders in the world? That's the European strategy. When we started putting the bid together and we started thinking about what was going to be in the bid, we had a big consultation through last summer. And then obviously when the new partners joined us in the autumn, we had to think about what they were bringing to Utopia as well. And there we had some interviews with our presidents that are sitting behind me, and there were 4 key things that came out of that consultation which we built into the bid. The first was that although Utopia's done a lot on education, as Eva said earlier, perhaps we need to do more in really showing what we're doing on education and really institutionalizing our education activities so that our staff and particularly our students can really see what Utopia is bringing to our institutions. We've done a lot of work on methodology, we've done a lot of work on bringing people together, but it's not perhaps yet visible enough in our institutions about how our students see that Utopia is adding value to them. So we really need to do some thinking going forward about how we really recognise that value for our students. We know how to do it now, but we really need to roll that out in a bigger way. Facilitation of collaborative research was the second priority that came from our presidents. Again, here the conclusion was that we don't want to set thematics and we don't want to say at the top, here are 5 thematics that we're going to focus on. We want the thematics to come from you, to come from our communities and be bottom up. But we want to add value to that by really facilitating the relationships between our communities. So our focus in research is on bringing people together, and they could be bringing people together that happen to focus on a particular theme, or it could be bringing people together. For example, we have a strong focus on early career researchers and how we really support our early career researchers in being imparting skills and knowledge, but also in them being ambassadors for Utopia within our institutions. So the focus on research is really on how we bring different groups of people together so that they can together collaborate and come up with the research. The third theme that came from our presidents was wanting to undertake global joint ventures. So what we do in an international space, and by international that can mean many things. It can mean what we do in the Balkans or in Eastern Europe, but it also means what do we do in the rest of the world. So how does Utopia engage outside of its own borders, and how can we respond to that challenge set by the Commission on European leadership, and how can Utopia really take forward that global leadership and European leadership. And then lastly, the fourth challenge that came from the presidents was how can we better bring together our professional services and our administrative services to learn from each other, to provide cross-institutional services, and how we can deliver more with it, collaborating with each other than we can within our institutions. We've done quite a lot on that already, but we think there's more we can do on how we bring our support structures together to really help us deliver Utopia activities. So those were the 4 challenges from the presidents, and that is what we took as the guiding point for the bid. And in the bid, we developed some long-term objectives and then some 4-year objectives, which have been the ones that are written into the bid. So the long-term objectives, first of all, are that we want to build a Utopia college as a home for all our educational activities. And it would be a probably virtual college. We're talking a long way in the future now. This is beyond the project, but we're talking a virtual college. And it's a place where we would bring together all our learning activities, our courses, our lifelong learning, our micro-credentials, and bring them together in something where we can actually see, as I said earlier, that Utopia is delivering something on education. We also want to develop its partner, or its sister, in research, which is the Utopia Global Institute, which will be a similar home for all our research activities. So a probably virtual institute for how we bring together all the research that we are doing that's addressing all the global challenges and the societal challenges. And that would be a place where our researchers come together, but would also be a place where we bring in the people that we work with, stakeholders, industry, as I said earlier, cultural organisations, whoever it is, we all come together in what we will call the Global Institute. We're developing 2 really methodologies which are very connected. One is how we connect people within our institutions, so how we connect our communities to each other. And that's quite difficult, particularly now with 10 institutions. So how do we connect the people working on education, the people working on research, the professional services, the students? How do we build those communities, and how do we provide instruments to connect people to each other? And secondly, how do we do that in a global context? So how do we bring a global context to everything that we do? So those communities are not just how we connect internally, but as I said earlier, how we connect externally. So very briefly now, those long-term challenges gave us the 6 short-term challenges for the project, and I'm not going to go into them in detail, but you can have the slides, and in fact you can probably see the bid now once we can download it from the system. So we have 6 objectives. The first here is really how we set ourselves up to deliver those connected communities. So what policies do we need? What procedures do we need? What strategies do we need to actually develop the way in which our communities can connect with each other? And that includes very much how we connect our students. Our students have developed their own initiatives within Utopia, which is wonderful, and we want that to continue, but we wanted to provide a space for them to continue to connect, so there's very much some student-led activities in there. We then have an objective and a work package on empowering knowledge, which are our education and research activities, and there we hope to incubate some of our academic connected communities to really bring our researchers and our educators together, probably around thematic areas, and provide them with support and perhaps some small bits of funding to really bring them together and allow them to develop those communities themselves. So really this is where we want you to get involved, because we want to find the communities that want to come together across our institutions, and then we want to help them come together and facilitate that collaboration between them. We then have a work package and an objective on connecting ecosystems, which is where we bring the outside world in, and there's activities on there in European citizenship, as I said earlier, that's now very vital, which includes our inclusion activities, how we connect with the Western Balkans, how we connect with our local places and our local communities, and also how we connect globally. We have 4 global partners currently, and we want to extend that, so we will be looking at how we increase the number of global partners that we work with. Those are our 3 core objectives and our 3 work packages, and then we have 3 sort of underlying cross-cutting work packages that help us deliver all that. We have one that delivers our governance structures, and I'm not going to go into that, but our management and governance and how Utopia is managed and how we build the future of Utopia, which includes the legal entity. We want to set up a legal entity for Utopia, and that will be there. We want to provide tools to help all our academics and our students and our educators to deliver this. So we need to provide them the tools that they need to be able to do it, and there are a lot of cross-cutting tools in there that we will offer them to help them to come together. And then lastly, we have an objective and a work package on impact and dissemination, which is how we take the knowledge that we produce and take it out to the people that it affects. And they may be other universities. We share our learning with other universities. It may be how we take the collaborative research we do to the people that it's going to affect. So all the learning that we have within Utopia is taken out in that impact and dissemination work package. So that's the bid. If it's successful, we are due to hear in July, and we would expect to start in December. So there's nothing to do immediately other than think about keeping everything crossed and making sure that the evaluators like our bid. And then we expect to hear on that in July with the aim of starting on the 1st of December. However, the bid isn't the only thing we're going to do. And if you allow me 5 more minutes, I just want to talk a little bit about other things that Utopia is doing and will be doing in the next year, which you may hear about and which you may be able to be involved in, because we have always said that the Alliance, as Eva said at the beginning, the Alliance is not just the bid. The bid provides us with the mechanism to deliver what we want to deliver, but the bid does not define Utopia. We are many other things as well. So I just want to talk about a few of the other things that we are doing that you may hear about over the coming months. First of all, we have to really work with our new partners. When they joined back in the autumn, I said to them, you have to be very patient with us, because you're going to have to be ready to write this bid before we've really had a chance to talk to you and get you involved in Utopia, and that's going to be very difficult. And actually it has been difficult, and I want to say first of all thank you to our new partners, to UBB and to Nova and to Dresden and to Fosbury. Thank you for the patience that you've had with us and the way that you've worked with us very quickly over the past few months. And thank you for your input to the bid, actually, because we could not have done it without you. You really are now core to that bid. It's not just the 6, we are now 10. We possibly need to stop saying new partners. I don't think you feel very new anymore. But we haven't really had time to get to know you. We haven't really had time for you to know us. And we really need to resolve that over the coming months. So the plan is that we are going to work much more with our new partners over the rest of this year. We have visits planned. This is the first one. Thank you, Daniel. But we have visits planned to our other 4 new partners over the course of the next 12 months. And I would also encourage you to think about other ways that we can get to know each other beyond these visits. The visits are important, but I also think that we need to be talking to each other bilaterally and multilaterally, so there's nothing to stop you talking directly to each other. There's nothing to stop academics from one institution contacting another institution and saying, we'd like to work with you. If you don't know who they are, we can facilitate those connections. But it's not all about these guys talking to each other, it's also about you guys talking to each other. So we need you to start communicating with each other, and we can help you with that. You're not on your own, but we'd very much like you to start connecting with the other institutions in the Alliance. There were a few things going on that our new partners are already involved in. We have a co-tutel PhD program that I know many of our partners are involved in. Some of you have been applying. We have the Innovation Fellows, Science and Innovation Fellows program that I know some people have been applying to. There are several things that are open to you already that I know, and we can talk more about them in the coming 2 days. So please, I would encourage you to start thinking about what Utopia can offer you and how you can start to connect with the other institutions in the Alliance, and come forward with those ideas, and we can help you then to deliver them. We also have our existing projects which still need to be delivered. So the 2050 project is our core project, is well into its final year now. That will finish at the end of November. We have a lot still to do, and that unfortunately has to be the 6 because we're not allowed to fund the new partners from that. But I think you just need to be aware that we are having to finish that project, and we still have a lot to deliver there, so we have to really focus on successful delivery of that project. But hopefully if we can do that, it will leave us in a very good situation to start the new project in December. We have our research project, which is just coming up to its midterm. So we're halfway through that, but the Commission is already starting to talk about what's next for European universities in terms of research. So there will be a lot of conversation and consultation on that coming up in the next year. And hopefully in the coming months, we will know much more about what the Commission wants to fund next in terms of research. And from the early signs, it's probably not going to be what it is already. So I think we have to be ready for something different, but from what we've seen, we think Utopia is well placed to address that. So certainly that will be for the 10 to look at together, is what the Commission funding on research is going to be for European universities and how Utopia can draw it down. We have new projects starting. We have widening participation and social inclusion projects. We have a doctoral school that is in evaluation at the moment, and we're hoping to hear back from that soon. And I know that, I think all the new partners were involved in the doctoral project, yes. So hopefully if that doctoral project is successful, that will provide the 10, well, not quite the 10, but most of us, with funding for joint doctoral students, which will really be another way in which we can bring ourselves together. And there will be new funding opportunities coming up in the next year, so we really have to make sure that we see what funding opportunities are available and how we can best come together to draw that down. So we're in a very strong position of that, and it's something that we need to do. We need to set up for the next bid, so we perhaps don't need to do anything before July, but if we are successful, there'll be quite a lot of work to do in the autumn to make sure that project is ready to go. And that will involve all of us. As I said before, the new partners are very much integrated into that bid. We expect to have, if it's successful, our kick-off meetings in Ljubljana in November. We have a Utopia Week in Ljubljana in November, and that really is going to the point at which we're going to launch the kick-off meetings and the planning meetings for the new project, so we have to be ready to go with that. And then a list of other things that are going on over the next year. So in addition to the projects and in addition to all the visits to the new partners, we have, for example, the Times Higher Conference in Barcelona in May. Tony, we haven't had much time to work with you on that, but now the bid is in, we need to come back to that and really make that a success. So Utopia is involved in a Times Higher Education Conference on the future of European universities that's taking place in Barcelona at the end of May. And it's a real opportunity for us to really showcase ourselves and really show the world what we can do alongside the conference, so we need to be ready for that. We have Utopia Weeks coming up. This is a week where we bring together all our communities from all our projects and everybody from our presidents, our vice presidents, but also our project teams and staff and students if they want to join us. And we come together for a week to have all our board meetings, but also to talk to each other and to have dissemination and impact events, and really think about what the next 6 months is going to bring. So the next Utopia Week is in Brussels at the end of June, and these two look okay at the moment, so I'm relatively happy. It's a big job. And then, as I said, we go to Ljubljana in December. We haven't started thinking about that yet, but we will start thinking about it soon. We have a memorandum of understanding on mobility, which has already been signed by the 6 partners, and the 4 partners will be signing that tomorrow, so there will be, all of us will have signed that tomorrow. And that's about how we provide mobility opportunities for our students, but also our staff, not just our students. So we really need to think about how we take that forward. And these are more traditional mobility opportunities, but we also need to think in this new world about how we provide blended mobility opportunities for our staff and students. And we also need to think about how, as I said earlier, we set up this legal entity and everything that goes with it. We want to set up a physical office in Brussels. I think the offer still stands, Jan. So we will be coming to think about how we set up that office in Brussels and what it's going to look like. So the conclusion of all this is there's an awful lot going on. It's not just about projects. Utopia is much more than projects, but there's a lot of delivery to do on projects. What we really want to know, though, from our new partners is how can we further help you be better engaged in Utopia? You've undergone a very intense process over the past few months, but really we want to start now talking in more detail to you and to your staff and even to your students and say, how can we help you be better engaged in Utopia? And there's a lot of us here over these 2 days. And there's a lot of people that know an awful lot about Utopia, so please, I urge you to take the opportunity to talk to us and for us to talk to you. And if you have innovative ideas, we are always open to them, so we'll be really pleased to hear your thoughts and your ideas on how you would like to be involved in Utopia. Thank you very much. I've talked for way too long, so I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nikki. Now, let's move to the last part, a very brief movie about the history and present of UBB. Laura, is that prepared? Okay, so let's see that.
Thank you.
So this was the first official part. Now let's follow the program. And maybe, Sergio, can you guide us for the group picture outside of the building, or where shall we have that? Okay, we will just follow you. I will just make sure that we have a